Guys, we'll be starting the session around 7:05. So ask your friends to come quickly. I see still some of you guys are joining, so we'll wait a few more minutes. Okay, so let's start this session now. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the introduction to GitHub Actions session with me today. So, I'm Rashmi Gunawardana. I'm an Alpha Microsoft Learn student ambassador from University of Colombo School of Computing. I'm currently in my third year doing my undergraduate. Uh, So the topic that I'm hoping to cover in today's session is this: what is GitHub briefly. So what is GitHub Actions and what is the importance of GitHub Actions? Why care about GitHub Actions and components of GitHub Actions and the demo part. So let's move on to what is GitHub. So GitHub is actually not a new place for all of us. So we have all worked on GitHub during our coursework and during our projects. And for some of the professionals in here, so when they're working on industry projects, of course, they're working on GitHub. So GitHub is a web-based platform for hosting and managing code repositories, and it uses Git version control system. And so it allows developers to collaborate on projects and track changes or to the code, all using this GitHub. So we can track issues and then do project management, and most importantly, we can do integration with CI/CD tools using this GitHub. So in this session, what I am focusing mostly is this integration with CI/CD tools part. So if you are not familiar with what is this CI/CD is, CI/CD stands for CI is continuous integration and CD is continuous deployment. So consider scenario that all then you have to think like when we do a project, we don't have to do coding only. So we have to ensure that the code passes all the unit tests, and there's a code quality check and compliance checks. So we have to make sure that this code meets all these relevant standards, and we have to ensure that this code passes integration test like that. So if any of these tasks do not pass, it will be a really mess after the code is deployed or when we are using the code. So these are the ideal jobs for workflow automation. So if you are already using GitHub, you likely want to set up your workflow automation using GitHub Actions. So this GitHub Actions feature was introduced on 2018 as a powerful automation tool, that is CI/CD tool within the GitHub ecosystem. So it provides developers with the ability to define custom workflows and automate tasks and streamline their development workflows and process development processes directly within GitHub repositories. So actually GitHub Actions consisting of package scripts to automate tasks in the software development workflow in GitHub. So we can configure GitHub Actions to configure our workflows, and we can do basically build, test, and deployment of code using this GitHub Actions. So we can make our code reviews, we can manage our branches, all using this GitHub Actions. So the result of using this GitHub Actions is we can say that we can get a reliable and sustainable automated workflow, which leads to a significant decrease in development time. So this decrease of development time is really important when we are working on a project uh, in university or industry, because it gives us more time to do much more important work rather than focusing on this testing and deployment parts. So let's move on with some of more uses. So GitHub helps us automate tasks within our software development lifecycle. So GitHub Actions are actually event driven, meaning that we can run a series of commands when an event has occurred. So for example, think that someone create a pull request for repository, so we can create a workflow to trigger when that action or event happens, or we can create a workflow that triggers when someone pushes our code to a repository, so like that. So in this diagram I have given you some three main phases in like development. So as undergraduates, what we are mainly focusing is this development section in here. So what we mostly do is we make our code, we write our code in our local environment, and then we commit the code to Git, and we choose some hosting site, and then we host our application like that. So what when GitHub actions come into actions is when we pushes our code to this repository. So GitHub actions can check out that code and set up the environment, the right environment that is suitable for that code to run, and then it can lint and test. So for people who are unfamiliar with this linting term, so linter is something that we can use to check to make sure that our code is conforming to some certain standards. Uh, so when we are using some programming, all the programming languages, there are certain standards like best practices that we must adhere to. So and we must make sure that our code is free of syntax errors like that. So all this has to be passed, then linting and testing, then we can go to build and deployment. All these actions can be done in one script if it's correctly scripted, and then the application can be forwarded to the production environment, and we can deploy our version. So what is the importance of GitHub Actions? So why should we learn this? So some of the key points that I have identified as undergraduates. So many of us here are undergraduates, but this is important for industry level professionals also. So for undergraduate students, learning GitHub Actions can be highly beneficial in these several ways. So, GitHub Actions promote collaborative development practices. So, as an undergraduate students, we often work on group projects or contribute to open source projects. So, by learning GitHub Actions, we can automate tasks like code testing and then building and deployment. By doing that, it makes us easier to collaborate with our team members, so all of us can stay on the same page and do our collaboration, and of course gaining these industry relevant skills. So GitHub Actions is actually widely used in industry for continuous integration, deployment, and automation. So by learning Git Actions and uh, getting hands-on experience with GitHub Actions as an undergraduate student, we can acquire practical skills that are highly valued by the employers. So these skills can demonstrate our ability to work with modern environment development tools and showcase our commitment to adopting industry-based practices. So we can streamline development workflow. So actually we have only limited time and resources to work on our projects most of the time. So this allows us to automate repetitive and time consuming tasks such as running tests or deploying code. So this automation frees up our time, allowing us to focus more on critical aspects of our project, such as coding, of course, debugging, and adding new features. So, and then this is something really important like showcasing projects and contributions. So, through GitHub, anyone can view our contributions for our project and view stats on how did we utilize our resources out in the open. So by using GitHub Actions, we can showcase our technical skills more efficient. Like any industry, any employer can come into a Git profile and view what this person has done So all of these things are showcased openly. Anyone can view that. And then of course preparation for future opportunities. So these days we are considering our internships and other job opportunities also. So many organizations and research institutions also utilize GitHub and employ GitHub actions to streamline their development processes these days. So by being proficient in GitHub actions, we can increase our chances of securing internships or research opportunities, as we can showcase our ability to work effectively in real world development environment. So moving on, I have added some benefits also. So why do we have to care about this GitHub actions? So one thing is it is fully integrated into GitHub, and therefore it doesn't require any external site. So if there are some alternative applications that we can work on in CI/CD aspects, but this is integrated into GitHub, so it is very easy for us to work and doesn't need any external implementations any somehow. So multi-container testing, this one is also really important. So this allows us to test um, multi-container setup by adding support for Docker and Docker Compose files to a workflow. So some of you guys might be not familiar with what Docker is. So Docker is also an open source platform that enables you to automate the deployment of applications within lightweight and like isolated containers. So Docker works with containers basically. So Docker scripts, we commonly refer to Docker scripts as Docker files. They are text files that contain a series of instructions used to build Docker images. So we can deploy these Docker images in GitHub Actions by adding those and by configuring those. It is very easy for us to do container testing also. And there are multiple CI templates available in GitHub Marketplace. I'll show you guys further in the demonstration. So it is very easy for us to find a template that suits our requirement and do the configurations. There's documentation available everywhere. So it's extremely easy for us to get started on this. So, and then of course, this is a great free plan. Actions are completely free for every open source repository, and we get a certain time for us to work for a month within. So this time allocated is more than enough for us to work on this GitHub actions to do our practices and do our projects on this. So it's really important for us to uh, know about GitHub actions. So by now you must be bored of my introduction part. So I have a small task for you guys. So what are the three main processes that GitHub actions uh, can do in software project environment? So you can put your answers in the chat. Then you can stand a chance to win some of these swags that we are giving out. So you can put your answers in the chat now. So the answer is really easy for this. Okay, I see one answer. Okay, let's wait for one more answer. Okay, we have got several answers. Okay, thank you guys. So, yeah, your answers are correct mostly. So I'll be handing out stacks for first three answers. So you guys can contact me after this session. Okay, let's move on with our session then. Is some popular technologies similar to GitHub Actions? So, as I told you earlier, there are some popular technologies that are used in the industry these times. Jenkins, Travis CI, GitLab CI/CD, and Azure DevOps pipelines, Bitbucket pipelines. So these are some of the most popular CI/CD tools that are available online for us to use. So what is important, the key point in here, guys, so if you know GitHub Actions, like if you understand the basics of actions, you can easily understand the concept that is running within these applications also. So if you can master GitHub Actions, it is really easy for you to learn these applications sometime after in your career or this time. So and here and here is also GitLab CI/CD. So some of you guys may consider GitLab is same as GitHub. So it is not. So there are some key differences between GitLab CI/CD and GitHub Actions. So uh, it differs from beginning of the ownership actually. So GitHub is owned by Microsoft and supported by Microsoft. It lab is open source actually. So when talking about the hosting part, GitHub is hosted by github.com, while GitLab can be self-hosted or used as a SaaS. So as far as I know, so GitLab is mostly used by entrepreneurs because it can be self-hosted, so it is easy for them to use that. But when talking about the community aspects, GitHub has a larger and more active community, especially for open source projects. So if you are learning and if you are practicing, it is better to start with GitHub and go forward exploring these other options. And there's this Azure DevOps pipelines also. So I will show you guys this Azure pipeline. Uh, so this is if you search on the Google Azure pipelines, you can come to this page, and in this page you can see that uh, you can get start a free plan and explore this also. So you get a free 30 days to explore this. So in here you can see that you can work with any languages, and of course there's containers and Kubernetes containers. So in here you say it says GitHub user, you are covered. So if you have experience learning GitHub Actions, it is really easy for you to learn this. uh, you just need to catch up on this. There's nothing else to learn other than that. So there in GitHub marketplace, you have the Azure pipelines package also. So in here, some of the we can see some interfaces like the same interface like GitHub Actions also. So in the demonstration part, you can understand that this interface is really similar to GitHub Actions interface also. So if you want, you can go to these links and explore these also. So let's go back to our presentation. So let's start with the components of GitHub Actions. So when we talk about GitHub Actions, there are some terminology that we have to get used to before working on GitHub Actions. Some of the basics. So, of course, all the things start from our repository. So, from repository, there need to be a .github/workflows/directory. So, all these GitHub Actions work we are doing from this directory. So it is really important for you to define this directory correctly, otherwise your workflows will not work. Then some of the important words in here, workflows, their jobs, steps, event, runners, and actions. So let's see one by one. So what are the workflows? So the workflow of workflow is an automated procedure that you add to your repository. So they are made up of one or more jobs that can be scheduled or triggered by an event. So simply this workflow is an YAML file that we are adding inside this .github workflows directory. So I have given you one example, this continuous deployment.yaml. So we can add this easily for our GitHub actions page. So this is an example of one workflow. So I'll explain these terms one by one, but this here is one workflow that we can define. And then there are events inside this workflow. So an event is a specific activity that triggers a workflow. For example, an activity can originate from GitHub when someone pushes a commit to a repository or when an issue or pull request is created. So these workflows are triggered from these events. So if we say there are many events that we can trigger on GitHub, we can add those to our workflow files. So you can also use the repository dispatch to trigger workflow when an external event occurs. But when we talk about internal GitHub events, so in this code, you can see that I have highlighted on push. So this push is an event. So push means we are pushing as code changes to a repository. So you can take this as a commit. Okay, so there are several other work events that you can explore. So this is the GitHub docs that you can refer if you have any doubts or questions regarding these GitHub actions uh, or any GitHub stuff. So in here they have defined clearly what type of events that we can use in our workflows. So in here there are deploy, like we always have to use this on and then the event name. So there are create, delete, fork, issues, public, push, anything you can. If you can customize your workflow according to what event you want to use. So I will you can refer these links. I will share with you guys if you want. So apart from those, then there are some other terms also. So then there are jobs. So a job is a set of steps that execute on the same runner. So I will explain what is this runner on for the session. So actually on the next slide. So by default, a workflow with multiple jobs will run those jobs in parallel. So we can run multiple jobs in parallel in one workflow. So for example, a workflow can have two sequential jobs that build and test code. So there can be many different jobs on one workflow. So there's also documentation on this you can explore, but simply if we take the code, so in here you can see that there we have say jobs. So under these jobs we have given a name as superlint. I'll explain you guys what this superlinter does in this code, but there's the name superlint. So this is the name of this job. Okay. So then there's jobs, and inside the jobs we have steps. A step is an individual task that can run commands in a job. So a step can be either an action or a shell command. So each step in a job executes on the same runner, allowing the actions in that job to share data with each other. So simply saying, steps are situated inside the jobs, and its steps are actually by the name. These are the steps that the workflow should work on. And then there are runners. So runners is simply the container environment that runs our code. So by container, we means the working environment of, so everything needs an working environment. So by default, we can have Ubuntu latest and Microsoft Windows and Mac OS for these workflows. But there are many other working environments that we can add to our workflows. Those are available as extensions. So you can add those based on your requirement. So runners are simply the environment that the code runs on. So then there are actions. So actions are standalone commands that are combined in steps to create a job. So simply every step has an action. If we take a step, we have to do action simply. So this is the high level idea of what I have explained you so far. So think of this as an workflow. If you take this as a workflow, there's an event. Then the event triggers the jobs. So under jobs, you can have multiple jobs in the single workflow. So if you take this one single blue color container, this job has steps and this step has an action. So this jobs separately works on runners. So this first job execute on you can say Ubuntu environment, then the second job can work on Windows environment. So it's up to us. We can define anything custom workflows according to our requirement. So let's take this code for example. So in this code, you can identify all the terms that I have explained you right now. So the name of this workflow is superlinter. So on push is the event that triggers our workflow. Then there's jobs. So there's one job as superlint. Then the name of that job we have given here. So then this case says it runs on Ubuntu latest. So this is the runner. That means the running environment of our code. And then there are steps. In here there are we have defined two steps. So the first step is checkout code, and it has the action checkout. So it says this users keyword uses, it is for actions. Then we have the second step, run superlinter. So it uses the GitHub superlinter. This is the action. So this is the basic level code that we can execute on our workflow. So by that, let's move on to our demonstration part. So in this demonstration, what we are going to do is we'll go how to implement our GitHub actions and implement a linter that run checks against our code and make sure that it meets specific criteria. So for this, I'm using this super linter package. So you can see that it is also available in GitHub Marketplace. So under GitHub Marketplace, if you go to Actions, you can see that there's a package named Superlinter. So what this specific linter does is this is checking for the syntax errors or some specific standards that the computer program has to adhere. And when we push our code to our repository, this is checking for errors or syntax errors, anything in that code. So this specific superlinter is checking for all these languages. It can check all these languages. So now let's go to GitHub and we can create a new repository for this. Okay, so you can give any name for your repository. I'm giving Git actions, and then you can give a description if you want to. I'm not giving one. So you can keep your repo public or private. I'm adding a README file, and then we can create this repository. Okay, so now this repo is created. Let's wait a minute. So, okay, in here you can see that there's code section, issues, pull request. So what we are working today is on this actions section. So if you go to this actions section on here, you can see that there's get started with GitHub actions. Then it says all these things, and they have provided us with a simple workflow. You can work on this if you want to practice. And there's some predefined packages that we can view here for these all are freely available. You can test these on, so if you take this, you can test this on Microsoft Azure. There's documentation also available. So these packages are available for deployment, then security, integration, automation, and for pages. So I'll be also showing you guys some pages stuff also. So we can automate all the tasks that we are doing from these pages by using GitHub Actions. So let's go to set up a workflow yourself. Okay, so when you go from that location, you get this interface here. So you can see that it says Git actions, my report name, then .github workflows, then my YAML file. So I can give any name I like in here. So I'll just add a simple hello world function first for you guys to uh, understand how to add this stuff. So you can just search for hello world workflow. These are freely available. You can copy this code and then you can give any name here. This doesn't have to be hello main. You can just hello world, and then we can add this code here. So you can see that name of this workflow is hello world on push. So this triggers by a commit or a push. So there's only one job here. So when we do a commit, it also automatically run this and print this echo hello world. So it is echoing this hello world in the CLI. I'll show this. So we can commit this. Okay, now so after we add that into actions, if you come back to your main repo screen, you can see that here is something, a yellow dot, and it is showing you guys that in progress. This workflow is in progress. So if you go to details, so you can see that it has set up a job. So all these details you can see here, and then in my step, this is in the code, the name of the step. It has a code in here. So it has printed hello world here. Then the job is complete. So when the job is complete, you can see that there's a green color tick here. So if you go to this GitHub Actions page now, you can see all the workflows that you have executed in here now. So it says that 2 workflow runs. So now these have happened. You can filter any workflows that you have want by here. So if you want to disable any workflow, you can do it from here. So I will add another workflow into here. So you can see that not only one, you can work on multiple workflows parallelly in here. So I'll add a new workflow. So how you add a new workflow is that in this sidebar, you can see that new workflow tab. So go to here. So then we get directed to the same page that we saw earlier. Then we can set up a workflow again. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that linter script I showed you guys earlier to this repository also. So okay, wait a minute, guys. Let's go to my profile. And I have already defined it in here. So you can see this superlinter.yaml file here. So let's copy this code. And we can add it to here. So you can see the name of this workflow, on what event it is triggering, jobs in this, what are the steps. So this has 2 steps. This is getting the package superlinter from there and executing the linting function. So let's rename this as superlinter ml. So now we commit this. Okay, so now you can see that there are 2 workflows in here. One is superlinter, another one is hello world. So you can see that it's also in progress. So we can add a file to our main repository to see how that workflow does it work. So we can create a new file. So I'm going to add a simple Python file in here. So I'm taking this predefined function that I have used earlier. So if you see this Python code, you see that there are two functions. One is to print hi and then other to print by and then the ending function. So these two main functions are the main things here. So let's commit these changes to our main. So we can commit directly to our main branch, or we can create a new branch for uh, this commit, or I'm committing directly to the main branch. So now we have added our main Python code into our repo. Okay, so now you can see now there's 6 workflows running. So you can see that superlinter is also workflow is also running, and this main then creating the main dot, this is the Python file that we created. So this is not going to give us any issues. So if we get any issues, it's only from this workflow. So you can see this is taking some time to run these codes. So you can also see that there's this hello world workflow that we have previously created. So if you click on that, you can see these specific workflows that have run from this script. So if you don't want this workflow to execute now, so if you have added another workflow, so you can just disable this workflow. You can go to here and you can just disable this workflow. So this workflow is now disabled. Only this superlinter is now working. You can see. So this is taking some time. So until this workflow is running, I'm going to show you guys some exciting features that we can explore on GitHub. So the first one I'm going to explore is this GitHub Pages feature. So if you go to, you just Google GitHub Pages, you can see this page here. So this is the easiest documentation that you can find online for this pages deployment. So by using pages, we can deploy our personal portfolio website. So any other website, by using this pages, you can deploy very easily. So they have defined 5 steps on how we can deploy our code to pages. So you can explore this also. So in the first step, they have said to create a repository with this format. And then based on what Git client you are using. So if you are using the CLI, we can use these commands. So if you are using this GitHub desktop, you can use this. And then there's option called I don't know. So you can also explore this. Then they are giving you step by step on how to download the GitHub desktop and work on that also. So I will show you guys how I'm going to do this from this repository that I have now created, this Git Actions repository. Okay, so there's this Git Actions repo. You can see that. So it says that these actions are really slow, so they require some time to run. And if you click on this workflow, you can see this nice interface. And okay, now it's complete. So it says that all these action run steps have run correctly. So they have set up correctly, and then they have, this is the checkout code. This is the first step of our YAML file. So you remember from this code. So this says checkout code and run superlinter. So in here, it is showing the steps. Checkout code, has run correctly, and then run superlinter. So all these things have run correctly, and then the job is complete. So that means, so the meaning of this has run correctly. So this means that our code is free of errors. So this is checking the syntax errors and the uh, standard things that we have to do when we are coding, the best practices. So this has run correctly. That means our this main.py Python file is free of errors. Okay. So what we can do now is, so I will show you now. So there are some certain standards when we are pushing Python scripts. So there has to be similar distances around from this corner to here to start in every code. So other than that, our code will not be pleasant and it will be messy. So this standard they have implemented this standard so that it is easy for every developer to work on these um, languages easily. So what I'm going to do is that, so there's a standard that says there should be two spaces between two functions. So I'm going to reduce one space. So I'm creating an error in my code, and then I'm going to press backspace on this. So the space here and here does not match. There's an extra space here. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to commit this again. So I'm going to update this main Python file. Commit changes. Go to the main. So you can see now this superlinter is now again it's working. So we did the push. So upon an event, it has triggered and it is working its job. So you can see in this interface that this is running. So this will also take some time. So I'll show you what happens after. So until this file is running, I show you guys the GitHub pages section. So if you want to explore more on GitHub pages, where you want to go is this. You have to go to the settings section. So if you go to settings, on the left hand side, you can see there's a pages tab in here. Okay. So you have to go to this pages section. Okay. So now you can see that GitHub pages for this. This is where you can configure GitHub pages for this repository. So in this build and deployment section, you can choose the source. So you can deploy. So if we add the workflow, that is, if we add the workflow connecting GitHub pages, you can deploy this from GitHub Actions also. You can see in here. So I'm deploying this directly from my main branch. So I can choose a branch. So I'm choosing main, and then we have to save this. Okay, so now you can see that this is asking for custom domain also. This is not compulsory, but if you have a domain name that you have purchased from any of the domain sites, you can add here so that it will be displayed from that domain name. But because I didn't add any domain name, my site will be as this Rashmi this name. So now you can go to actions again, and you can see that pages build and deployment, this workflow has been added automatically for our workflow. So you can see now this, and this has now completed. So now you can see there's a red cross in here. So let's see what is the issue. So we have purposely added some syntax errors. So then we can see it gives errors. So it is saying some document start error. There's a document start error in the uh, file. So in here you can see the error. So in this main.python file, expected 2 blank lines. So we have only given 1. So it is giving us the error. These errors are also very clearly indicated in here. So now you can go and fix these errors. So you can see in here. So if we go to our code again, and we can now correct our errors. So using this kind of testing is really easy rather than doing all this work manually, because these are all automated. So I have added 2 spaces now, and then this is of same format. So I'm committing again. Okay, now it's running again. You can see in here, it's running again. And because we haven't disabled this pages build deployment script, it is also working here. So if we go to the settings section and the pages section again, you can see it's really easy. Your site is live at this URL. So we can visit our site. So there's nothing in my site repository right now. So it is only showing this readme now. But this is an active, my site is up in this domain now. So I have configured GitHub pages very easily. So it is deploying from my main branch. So this is still running. So we can go to our main branch and we can now do some changes to our main repository. So what I'm going to do now is, now we have touched up on GitHub pages stuff. So if you want to explore more on GitHub pages stuff, you can go to documentation, or I can also share you some the links that I have. So now I'm also going to show you guys the code spaces feature that GitHub has introduced. So because of this code spaces feature, now we don't need to use VS Code anymore. We can use the VS Code from our browser itself. So you can go to your repository and then here this green color code, and then you can see that there's local and code spaces. We usually only see this local section that we can get our uh, cloning link, or we can open this with GitHub desktop. But there's also a new feature called code spaces. So code spaces is your workspace in the cloud. It is very easy to work in this, guys. It's basically VS Code hosted in the cloud. So we can click this create code space on main. Okay. Then it's setting up our space. So you can see this interface. It's very similar to VS Code because it's made in the similar way. Okay, so you can see now it is showing my files in our repository. This main Python file. So we can install extensions here also. And this source control, if we did some changes to this in this code space, we can commit it directly to our repository. It is very easy. So in these extensions, let's add Copilot. Okay, here is the Copilot extension. We can install Copilot for our code spaces. You can easily play with these things. It's really fun. So we can add an index.html file for this. So okay, so I'm adding this. So we have installed Copilot, so we don't have to type anymore. So you can add any sentences you want. Hello world, and rush me. And then if you want to add any images, you can add in here. So we can download an image. So and we can easily add this in here. This is the same as your VS Code workspace, only it is on the cloud. So let's save this for now. And you can see that in the source control section here, you can see there are some changes in your repository and you can commit these changes. So let's say added text file, then we commit. So we can directly commit it to our repository. So okay, so now it's updated. You can see that there's my index.html file and this stuff that I have added. So now in the actions, you can see that pages is running again. This one is related to our GitHub pages. So it is running. So this is also checking for errors also because we did not disable this workflow. So there seems to be error in the code in the main Python file. So blank line contains white spaces. So we have to remove these white spaces according to these errors. So you get the idea now. So this is checking for errors and giving us instructions on how to fix those syntax errors and checking for our best practices when we are doing coding. So now this pages has been built. So you can go to this pages section and you can. So okay, so now I have added some stuff into my Git repository from the browser itself without opening any development environment like coding VS Code or anything without opening. So it's now live on my browser. So this is actually hosted. So if we open this on any, so you can see that it's up. So these are some of the very exciting features that GitHub has. These code spaces and pages. You can do many things with this stuff. So if you go to GitHub Marketplace, okay, so in here you can see the GitHub Marketplace. You can see this in the types. You can see actions. In here, under the apps, you can see actions. So in these actions, you can see many packages, scripts that are pre-built, available for us to use. We can use these for numerous occasions. The uses of this is limitless, guys. So we can just close this code space. And we can go to our previous repository that we worked on. So in here you can see pages. In the pages section, we have some sample workflows here to host a static HTML website or GitHub pages using Jekyll or Next.js or anything. There are multiple many things available under the pages section. This is something you can easily work on, guys, because it's really easy to configure this. So this Hugo is actually a good site. You can post your website in here also. So if we go to static HTML, you can see that this is the code. You can customize this code according to what you want to uh, set up. So this has steps like first step is also checkout. Is always we have to check out before doing any changes. Then set up pages, then upload artifacts to that, then deploy with GitHub pages. So we can install this and go to settings. And in the pages section, you just have to select this GitHub actions. So I think you got a good idea about that now. So let's move on to some of the Microsoft programs uh, that we have currently available for you guys. So we have Microsoft Cloud Skills Challenge open. So if you Google Microsoft Cloud Skills Challenge, so it's up now, guys. So you can go to this Cloud Skills Challenge, and if you complete this challenge, you can earn free certification uh, from Microsoft. So if you want to look for DevOps career or even software engineering, nowadays software engineers need more CI/CD than so DevOps and software engineers go hand in hand. So if you want to learn new things regarding this DevOps in Microsoft aspect, so you can go to this DevOps challenge and you can start this challenge and earn yourself a free certificate. And I have also I have also I'm sharing uh, this learning path with you guys. So if you complete this learning path, this one or this one, so you can choose either one. I will share the links in this chat. You can also win free LinkedIn Premium voucher if you complete this one of these learning paths and send me the proof or the you can share these your achievements in LinkedIn and send me the link. Then I will check and I will give you guys the LinkedIn Premium vouchers. So if you go through these learning paths, it's really easy for you guys to work on this. So I'll put this on the chat. So you can try either one of these learning paths. Okay. Um, so, and then of course there's the GitHub Campus Expert Program. So you might already know about it, but but if you don't know, this is a really good program for you to participate in because they choose only some of the best students. And if you get selected for this campus expert program, you get a huge exposure to the industry and you'll be recognized for your skills. So you just can go to this site and apply to become a campus expert, or of course you can become a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. So Microsoft Learn Ambassador is a really good opportunity for anyone who wants to do something good for others and of course gain something for yourself also. So you can apply for this all around the year. So if you apply now, you will be considered for the latest upcoming intake. So you can click apply now and apply to become a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. There are some questions and two written questions and one video question. So you have to submit a video. So, but if you want to become an ambassador, it is one of the best thing that you can achieve on your graduate time. So, of course, you can get swags also if you participate in these events. So, let's watch this video about this MLSA program. So,
The Student Ambassador community is a global community of like-minded students that share a passion for technology and for having an impact in the world.
It's an amazing thing for people that both like social gatherings and in the same time they like tech communities.
It's Microsoft helping folks around our campus.
I wanted to improve my skills and I wanted to get connected with people that can help me do that.
Best benefit is the access to MS Learn and LinkedIn Learning as well.
You get an Azure subscription for tinkering around when you join the community and have completed your first milestone.
You also get to be mentored by Microsoft employees.
It's really a very wholesome experience where we're all just trying to help each other grow.
I saw that people were having a lot of fun, but in the same time they were learning a lot of stuff.
Everything that we have in the community is very inclusive and it welcomes everyone as they are.
This is a great place to learn new skills, to connect with people, to create community, to help others.
Students accomplish so much in this community. Not only do they build their own skills and their brand, but they create content, they run hackathons, they get mentorship, and they put that all on their resumes. And they get full-time jobs when they graduate. It's really amazing.
Anything good that's happening in my career probably started with this program.
Be sure to apply for it. You would definitely enjoy being a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador.
okay. So guys, so that's it for today, guys. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me from my LinkedIn, or you can get my email from this. So thank you for joining, guys. So I look forward to seeing you guys completing that learning path and winning some swags from me. So the guys who previously answered the questions, please contact me after this. So thank you for joining this session and see you again soon, guys. Bye. Thank you, guys.